And welcome to LFC Focus. Liverpool lost 1-0 to Southampton last night, meaning that their quest for Wembley fell at the final hurdle and they were knocked out of the EFL Cup at the semi-final stage. So it's been about 24 hours since that defeat, so I think it's about time that we pick the bones out of what exactly went wrong for the Reds. So I don't normally do this, but I think given the nature of that defeat and the nature of the performance, I'm going to go and just go through each player's performance individually before evaluating how the team played as a whole. And starting from the back, Loris Karius had a pretty good game and was one of the few Liverpool players who can really come out of that game and that tie as a whole with very few regrets. Obviously, he kept us in the game first time out at St Mary's, and he made a couple of good stops in this game. For example, when he denied, I think it was Dusan Tadic by pretty much sitting on the ball as he tried to roll the ball under our goalkeeper, and generally made a couple of good stops, wasn't really at too much fault for the goal. The defence was just way too open as a result of Liverpool trying to force that goal to take the tie into extra time, and it was a good shot from Shane Long, really. Other than that, he was collecting crosses, he looked very calm, he didn't look anywhere near as jittery as I think he has earlier on in the season, and he's starting to look like he could be the right choice as Liverpool's long-term goalkeeper. Onto the defence, starting with Trent Alexander-Arnold, who I think had a pretty good game. I think he made up for what he lacks at the moment in technical ability. He made a few misplaced passes here and there with his mentality. He was one of the few Liverpool players who was really going for it last night, and there was one moment that I think summed up his game, which was when he was behind a Southampton fullback and in a situation where a lot of Liverpool players would have maybe taken a few touches, waited for another player to make an overlapping run that he could pass to or cut inside and played it into the midfield. But instead he simply knocked it round the Southampton player, put the afterburners on and tried to run to the touchline and get across into the box. And like I said, his technical ability isn't quite there. He still needs to hone his passing ability, and like James Milner on the other side, he isn't the best crosser of the ball, which isn't obviously great when you're a fullback. But I think all of that is stuff that can be learnt, and his mentality is pretty much there, which is great to see in such a young player. Joel Matip, a little bit rusty in the first half, but I think that can be expected given that he was making his first proper appearance since his injury layoff, which has probably been about 7 or 8 weeks now. He was dribbled past a few times in the first half by Nathan Redmond, and it was quite difficult to judge his second half performance really because he was pretty much playing in midfield, as was Dejan Lovren, who didn't really put a foot wrong in the game, but again didn't really put a foot right as well. I think it would have been nice to see those two centre-backs making a bit more of an attacking threat for stuff like the corners. I don't think Liverpool had a single corner that actually met with the Liverpool head. They were all cleared by the Saints, but again, really, in that game, it was more down to the attack, and Matip and Lovren were spectators for a large portion of it, particularly in the second half. James Milner, sort of like Alexander-Arnold, a lot of running, a lot of energy, and a lot of attempted pressing without really end product. I think it's good to know that while he is a good player, he probably isn't going to be our long-term left-back, and Liverpool will probably now look to prioritise finding a left-back in future who is a good crosser of the ball, because I know James Milner, he got a lot of assists last season. I think he was our top assist maker, but a lot of those were from the centre of midfield and playing the ball low and along the ground, whereas at full-back you need to be a crosser of the ball, and he just isn't really, especially on that weaker left foot. Onto the midfield, Jordan Henderson is continuing this trend of when he has a bad game, Liverpool as a whole tend to have a pretty bad game. He didn't really get to do much of his defending, which I think is one of the main reasons that Liverpool looked so open, because both of their fullbacks were naturally bombing forward, and Jordan Henderson normally when that happens drops back into the centre-back pairing to make a sort of back three. But with Liverpool so desperate for a goal and with Southampton doing so little attacking, he spent most of his time just trying to keep the pace of the attack up, and whenever Southampton cleared the ball, get it back and get another attack going quickly so that Liverpool didn't lose too much time. I think there's a suggestion that that heel problem may be coming back, and that may be hampering his game a little bit, which is disappointing because he is so important for Liverpool. But hopefully that'll go away and his performance will start to pick up, and perhaps Liverpool's performances as well will continue to pick up in turn. Emre Can sort of showed in this game why he's so important for Liverpool off the ball. While on the ball, he's not the most exciting player to watch. He's not very mobile. He doesn't turn very quickly. And he's not the most imaginative passer. I'm not sure whether that comes down to the fact that maybe he doesn't quite have the passing ability of some of our other players, or he doesn't quite have the football brain to make these intelligent passes. But when he hasn't got the ball, he's always pressing, he's always being physically overbearing and muscling players off the ball, and he is a good tackler. So in a game like this where Liverpool needed to keep getting the ball back quickly and keep getting attacks started, he was quite helpful, if a little bit useless when it came to actually attacking and trying to get a goal. Adam Lallana had a sort of strangely off night. He had an alright first half. He was, making the odd flick, getting into the box, trying to create chances. But as the game wore on and it got into the second half, it just seemed that nothing was going his way. His touch was getting away from him. He just couldn't seem to be able to sort his legs out. There was that one moment where he broke into the box and had a lot of space, and I think the chance was almost too good. He was just given so much space and there were so many options that he wasn't really able to just whip the ball into the box, and he tried to pick out a pass and it didn't quite come off. And I think that's one of the main reasons that Liverpool did perform quite badly in attack, was that Adam Lallana wasn't having a good game. And when he doesn't, Liverpool just can't quite get the press and the energy started. Onto the attack, Felipe Coutinho had an okay game. I think Southampton definitely put a focus on stopping him from that traditional Felipe Coutinho long shot. There were a few moments where I think we saw a shot that looked like it was bending into the bottom right corner, and had it not been for the fact that Southampton almost always had about 3 players trying to block that shot, then maybe the tie could have worked out different for Liverpool. There were other moments where he showed why Liverpool have missed him so much, such as there was that moment that I think was inside the first 10 minutes of the game where he spotted Alexander Arnold's run into the box and lifted the ball over the entire Southampton defence. And I'm pretty sure if you discount Coutinho himself and Alexander Arnold, no one in the ground, not the Liverpool players, the Southampton players, or the fans, knew that Alexander Arnold was making that run. So he's very important to have for Liverpool because he does spot those runs, and it makes it a lot more worthwhile for players like Alexander Arnold and then Milner on the other side, these fullbacks bombing forward, if they do have a player who's able to spot them making that run and pick them out, even though it didn't quite work out for Liverpool yesterday. But he does pretty much look like he's back to full fitness, which is good news with the games against Wolves in the FA Cup, which is obviously taking on a bit more significance now, and Chelsea in the Premier League. It's good to have Coutinho back to full fitness, and hopefully soon we'll have Sadio Mane as well. On to Roberto Firmino, who had a bit of an off night, but I think with Southampton forcing all of the play out wide and Firmino, trying to play down the centre, he just wasn't really getting any joy, and Liverpool could never really get the ball to him. He created a couple of good chances. He was being forced to drop deep quite a lot and try and just press and win back the ball for Liverpool, which he did okay. He didn't really have a bad performance, but given the circumstances, he didn't really have a good performance either. But hopefully in the near future, we'll be seeing more of Firmino down the centre again, and things will pick up for him in terms of form and the goals that he scores. Daniel Sturridge had an okay night. I think it was disappointing that he didn't put away those good chances that he had, but it was good to see that he was getting in the box a bit more. He wasn't dropping deep as much as he's done this season, because that has become a very frustrating aspect of his game this year. He was getting into the box a bit more, and he was just getting on the end of chances, which he hasn't been doing so far this season. So that perhaps suggests that he's got a bit more confidence back. And obviously he hasn't scored too many this season, so he is going to be a little bit rusty in front of goal. But hopefully after that game, like I said, he'll have his confidence back, and we may see some more goals for him for Liverpool. But with Mane obviously coming back from AFCON, I don't think he's going to hold on to his first team place. So whether he is going to have to move on in summer remains a sort of matter of who goes after him and whether anyone can meet the price tag that Liverpool will probably ask for. But he had a pretty good night, and so hopefully he'll be useful for Liverpool for the rest of the season. Divock Origi didn't really have much to do. He barely touched the ball. The penalty incident, I was a little bit neither here nor there on, because the Southampton player didn't really get the ball but didn't really get much of Origi either, and I think Origi made a bit too much of a meal of it, because he just launched himself up into the air, and had he stayed on the ground and stayed on his feet and then maybe allowed himself to be caught by a Southampton player, which isn't strictly speaking sportsmanlike but could have got Liverpool a penalty, then maybe the tie will have worked out differently. Same with Gini Wijnaldum, just didn't really have much to do. He came on very late in the game when Southampton had pretty much resorted to parking the bus and packing the box, so there wasn't really much that Wijnaldum could do to help Liverpool get a goal. So all in all, it was a very disappointing game, but Liverpool are still in the FA Cup and still with an outside chance of the Premier League, and they are, of course, still fighting for the top four. So the season isn't over just yet. We've obviously had a very poor January. Some people are blaming that on the fact that Liverpool haven't really had any sort of activity in the January transfer window, so I'll have a video coming back on whether Liverpool were right not to make any signings or whether they should have recruited a few more players to boost their squad. That video will be coming out soon whenever Liverpool stop playing so many games that this channel is just becoming pre and post match videos. But until then, I will see you very shortly for the pre-match video against Wolves. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new around here, and follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter. Bye for now.